I guess I'm not getting my AirPods.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I'm going to, the big attraction is the tenure awards tonight, and I just wanted to say congratulations to all the administrators who are getting tenured. I'm especially proud because I was involved in hiring each of you, and I've watched you become an integral part of the Jericho family, and I'm very proud of all of you, and happy to see your families here, especially Alex. To do the presentation.
So if Jackson is here tonight, they won't be here next week?
No.
And are the noisemakers here tonight? It's, again, it's a pleasure to start off our meeting with an incredible celebration. Tonight we are going to honor by awarding tenure to 5 Jericho administrators. Think back to when all 5 started in Jericho. They started right before the pandemic broke. So they had a couple of months of normalcy, and then the sky fell in. And all 5 of them, in a major way, helped us navigate our way through the most challenging times we've ever seen in our lifetimes. So with the award of tenure tonight, there's a little bit of additional acknowledgement to the 5 individuals who were major players in helping us navigate for 2 years of the pandemic and leading the way by being strong, by being sensitive to the needs of our students and our staff, and helped us navigate, again, the most challenging times we've ever had. So to start off with, we would like to briefly talk about our 5 administrators who will be getting tenure this evening. So I start off with our high school principal, Dave. Dave has brought an uplifting and such a positive breath of fresh air to the high school. His love and appreciation of students and his philosophy of students first comes through on a regular basis. He's highly visible to students, he's highly visible to staff, he's highly visible to parents. He is always available to talk to students, to staff, to parents. He's developed a trusting relationship with students, staff, and parents. He's advocated in all of his years here with increased programs, expanded programs in our high school. Most importantly, the most significant thing I'll share is that we look forward to seeing Dave at our next choreo concert, talent show event, where he has said that he will be participating at the front of the stage. So, Dave, congratulations. We will be videotaping. Alex, and Alex, you brought the entire world with you this evening. Rivera. Alex, he came to Jackson at an incredibly challenging time for the Jackson family. A great deal of stress, emotion, anxiety existed given the challenges that the Jackson family was in the process of experiencing. You immediately, day one, you took charge and made everyone feel, I'm here and I'm going to make you comfortable here. I'm going to support you. I'm going to love you, and I'm going to make you feel okay. Students, your staff, and your parent community, you are the rock of Jackson. You are the rock of Jackson. Your leadership has provided an underlining of safe and secure environment, an environment where everyone is supported and loved by their principal. Also, one of the things that's so impressive is you are the first one to roll up your sleeves and jump in with both feet when there's a task to be done. I think of the numerous costumes that I've seen you in. I think of being taped to a wall, and I think my favorite is the pie that was shared with your face. Alice, we could not be more proud to extend our tenure to you this evening. Ivy insisted on sharing the celebration this evening, so let me pass the microphone over to Ivy.
Thank you. Okay, Lionel Chan is being recommended for tenure tonight as the Curriculum Associate for World Languages. Dr. Chan comes to us from the Plainview School District. He has provided opportunities for our students to excel in world languages. Dr. Chan has made many of our world language events more interactive and has expanded course offerings. Dr. Chan gives his department ownership of their professional development during their department meetings, which allows teachers to share pedagogy and the various cultures that they teach. Although it has been a rough 3.5 years for all of us, Dr. Chan has been planning for the return of our students' visits abroad. We look forward to those trips taking place, hopefully next year. Congratulations to Dr. Chan. We are fortunate to have you join our team. Thank you. Mrs. Conner. Kim has spent most of her 30-year career in the Jericho School District. She's probably the person who has had the most positions here. Special education co-teacher, special education facilitator, curriculum associate of elementary special education, elementary principal, and now Director of Special Education. Kim's vast knowledge of special education services, laws, and guidelines have helped to drive a very large special education department quite successfully. Kim knows all of the students that receive services through her office and can speak knowledgeably about their needs and strengths in order to help create the appropriate program or placement for them. She's a true advocate not only for our special education population, but for all children. Kim, we are so lucky to have you. Congratulations on your tenure. Happy birthday tomorrow. Dr. Fogarty. Dr. Fogarty joined us from the Valley Stream School District. Fortunately for us, his timing was perfect. Dr. Fogarty joined us in a time to help us get through the pandemic. In a matter of days, after school shut down, Dr. Fogarty put a device in every student and staff member's hands as he simultaneously set up student, parent, and staff helplines. Jericho is one of the only school districts on Long Island that provided 5-day-a-week online instruction within a week or two of school shutting down. Thank you, Dr. Fogarty. Patrick has an expertise in cybersecurity and has kept our district's data technologically safe. We also thank him for all of the new educational software he has brought to our schools. Congratulations. Thank you for everything you have brought to our district because it is a lot. It's a really tough job. Thank you. Congratulations.
Oh, I didn't see the Fogarty kids. Welcome. Our special guest too.
And my wife, Lisa.
Welcome. Happy to have all the families here. Very special.
Okay, so congratulations, and now let's make it official. This whole resolution? Yeah. Schedule J, administrator tenure appointment, be it resolved that, the people we just described and just spoke about and just raved about, be awarded tenure in the areas on the dates indicated in the schedule. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Divya, second. Sam, all in favor? Any discussion? Besides, we're so proud of you. Congratulations.
I do have a quick question. I think what the superintendent said about Mr. Cohen, with 2 students in the high school, I wholeheartedly agree with the leadership and everything he's done over the last 4 years here. But I do want to raise the point that, you know, we haven't talked about it in a while, that unfortunately tonight we're granting Mr. Cohen tenure as a co-principal of the high school as opposed to principal of the high school. And I was hoping to ask the superintendent, again, exactly the benefits that that structure conveys to the district. After 4 years here, I think Mr. Cohen has proven his worth. And, you know, the benefits versus the drawbacks of that structure, including the costs.
Why don't we vote on the tenure of the folks, and then I'll be more than happy to rebut your comments this evening.
And I'm happy to do that. I don't think it was rebuttal. I don't think there was anything in my comments other than asking a question. So rebutting, I didn't make a comment other than to say what a wonderful job Mr. Cohen has done over the last 4 years. But if you'd like to vote and then go ahead and answer, and take your word that you'll answer.
So I think we're ready to vote.
And no one else? Okay. All in favor? Congratulations to all of you. All of you who just came for the tenure will take a brief break so you can walk out and disturb.
I'm Jay. Nice to meet you.
There you go. Miraculous. That's it. Congratulations to your father. It's all about
Sam, we've in executive session, and probably the most appropriate place for the conversation, being that there are significant legal implications to the question you've asked. We have spent hours and hours and hours discussing the co-principal's position in executive session based on the legal implications of those discussions. You have seen many iterations of job descriptions and rationale for the two co-principal positions. And I guess I would just point out, as I said, a rebuttal. This is not a public discussion based upon the legal implications which you are well aware of.
Again, I appreciate your comments. I didn't think it was rebuttal. I think perhaps I misspoke or you misheard. I would, and again, if it's an executive session conversation, I would like to understand what that division of responsibilities is. I've been asked that question.
You've
by
seen it,
parents in
Sam.
high school.
You have seen the job description when you first came on the board in terms of the split job description of the two positions. You've seen it, and you've discussed it in executive session numerous times for many hours.
I'm happy to discuss it in executive session. I believe the comment you just made is incorrect. I believe there has been confusion about that job description, those job descriptions. I think I understand job descriptions change, but I do reject your statement right there that I've seen job descriptions and that those job descriptions are without confusion.
I have received in the last year and a half 0 questions from the parent community or the staff regarding any confusion around the job description of co-principal number 1 and co-principal number 2, Sam.
As you said, happy to discuss it in executive session, though again, I disagree with that statement.
And I reiterate, you have seen the job descriptions.
I'm not sure, you talk about it like, these are the co-principals of the high school. This isn't some secret. Like, who do people call? Well, what do they do? As, you know, you want to discuss it in executive session, we'll discuss it in executive session.
As I said, Sam, there's never been a question from a staff member or a parent in the last year and a half in terms of who they call when they have an issue in the high school. There's been not one question raised except by you this evening.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
If raising your voice makes you feel as if what you're saying is more accurate, then that's fine.
Thank you for your,
Is he not? He's answered, I've been here at meetings, and he's asked it multiple times, and I've never answered.
He has that,
he has had an answer
and I think the board can attest to that.
for many, many, many hours. We're gonna move on to the middle school.
Wait, no, you see, and this again is just untrue, and I'm not looking to belabor this because we've tried to belabor it for the last 4, 5, 6 years. I'm not even sure whether I sat on that side of the table or this side of the table. All I'm asking about is job descriptions, and the statements are just incorrect, but we'll move on and then we'll talk about it.
Middle school student council report, Angel Shaw and Crystal Zhu.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Joe.
And my name is Angel Shah. We are Jericho Middle School Student Council representatives.
It is a pleasure to be here this evening.
The monthly theme for April is hope and resiliency. Hope is the desire to do something and expect that will happen or be obtained.
The students were busy taking their ELA assessments today and tomorrow. The math assessments will take place on Tuesday, May 2nd and Wednesday, May 3rd. We would like to thank our teachers, curriculum associates, Mr. Salzman and Ms. Kriegstein, administration, and our fabulous secretarial staff for preparing our students and executing the exams and easing their nerves before the state assessments.
The middle school report card grades will be posted online on Thursday, 20th. As we are saying goodbye to our 8th graders and preparing for the high school transition, we're also in process of transitioning our incoming 6th graders. The middle school counselors visited the elementary schools in March. The Candiac, Seaman, and Jackson's elementary schools are scheduled to visit the middle school in late May and early June.
On Sunday, May 26th, JMS students participated in the Long Island History Day competition at Hofstra University. This competition was the culmination of months of research and hard work. Results were announced on Tuesday, and our students did an outstanding job. 14 projects qualified to move on to the next round, New York State History Day, which will be held in Oneonta next Monday, April 24th. And the advancing projects are...
For a group website, first place goes to Sandra Chen and Matthew Tang. And for second place, Lorenzo Duterte, Eric Gian, and Charles Park.
For individual website, first place goes to Zihan Wei, and second place to Isabel Dion.
Individual research paper. First place goes to Aryan Mukherjee. And the special award goes to Outstanding Junior Entry on Sports History, Jacob Fine.
For group documentary, second place goes to Armin Diwal and Dylan Radishwar, and third place goes to Chloe Hu and Ara Wu.
Group exhibit. For third place goes to Celine Chung, Caitlin Chun, and Sophia Sikulis. For fourth place, Isabella Chan and Ajit Gaur. Special award goes to Robert Townsend, Citizen Activist Junior Award, Aaron Koch, Sophia Saraf, and Samantha Woltman.
For group performances, first place goes to Esther Fa and Simran Johar, and third place goes to Richard Chen, Arav Jain, and Lake Joe.
For individual documentary, second place goes to Jay Patel.
For individual exhibit, first place goes to Andrew Na, third place to Matthew Booth.
Individual performance. First place goes to Sahana Sundar. On Tuesday, April 4th, Jericho welcomed New York State Commissioner of Labor, Roberta Reardon. Commissioner Reardon was kind enough to make a personal visit to our school to be interviewed by high school students Ryan Wang, Henry Jang, and TJ Wang.
Ryan, Henry, and TJ created a documentary on pioneering Secretary of Labor Francis Perkin for Long Island History Day. Middle school students with related topics were able to sit in and were given an opportunity to ask questions at the end. It was an incredible experience. Well, that's all for now. Have a great evening.
Congratulations to all the winners of those awards. High School Student Council, we have our board rep here instead of Ruby, Genesee, and Patrick Thad, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Grishman, board members, administration, and the Jericho community. My name is Patrick Zhao.
And I'm Genesee. Ruby is sick, so I will be filling in for her tonight. We hope everyone has had a restful break before the last stretch of the school year.
Before the break, on April 2nd and April 3rd, Thespian and National Honor Society clubs held their induction ceremonies for students who fulfilled a year's worth of induction requirements. Inductees of any of the school's National Honor Societies will be able to wear an honor cord during the graduation ceremony, provided they continue to fulfill requirements through their senior year.
Our virtual enterprise team, Elliott's, recently participated in the National Business Plan competition, competing against thousands of competitors to draft a business plan for a virtual business. Our Elliott's team placed top 20 in the nation. The team members are James Rush, Zara Kizelbosch, Ada Wang, Jessica Vartanov, Jessica Adele, and Alina Ng. Their success would not have been possible without the guidance of their advisor, Ms. Brogovitz.
The fourth marking quarter began on April 3rd before break. Quarter 3 grades will be released on PowerSchool tomorrow, Thursday, April 20th.
The high school spring choral and orchestral concert will be taking place next Monday on April 24th in the auditorium. Join us from 7:30 to 8:30 to listen to our spectacular spectacularly talented students perform. The 2023 FBLA State Leadership Events Conference will be taking place this Wednesday in Rochester, New York. 7-hour teams qualified through the pre-judged event and will be competing in the respective categories from business ethics, business plan, coding and programming, community service, digital video production, e-business to website design. We wish our students the best of luck in their competing competition.
In addition to our athletic teams, our VEX teams will be flying out to Dallas, Texas next week on Monday, April 24th for the VEX Worlds competition. We're excited to announce that 2 Jericho teams qualified for the competition through the state competition. And as a member of Team 992X, I cannot be more excited for next week and hope that our hard work pays off at the competition. Actually, in 2 weeks marks Teacher Appreciation Week, which is a week to express gratitude to our wonderful teachers for all the hard work they put in for our community. The week is set to take place from May 1st to May 5th, but in light of AP exams, our student council will be celebrating our teachers next Wednesday, April 26th, by providing a complimentary breakfast of bagels, coffees, and donuts in the morning to start off their day.
The Senior Student Council is organizing a Senior Spirit Week beginning with Y2K Day on Monday. So we're asking that students dress up from the year they were born, 2005, and we're bound to see a lot of low-rise and juicy couture. Next, we have Senior Citizen Day on Tuesday. If we're going to be the oldest in the school, we might as well look the part. Wednesday is Character Day, where we will see our senior class dressed in their favorite character from a TV show, movie, or book. On Thursday, seniors will be decked out in their blue and gold Jericho merch to show off their Jericho pride one last time. And lastly, the one that we've all been waiting for, Commitment Day is Friday, so seniors will come into school for the first time officially wearing merch from their college or the place that they're going to be spending the next 4 years. We are so excited for this event.
This year's High School Alumni Hall of Fame celebration will be held on April 27th. Our alumni being celebrated this year are Emmy Award winner and news reporter Dana Ashwin-Kreislow from the class of 2005, Professor of Greek Studies and published author Robert Hahn from the class of 1970, Chief of Pediatric Emergency Medicine at the New York Presbyterian Hospital. Thank you. Chris Kelly from the class of 1992, and award-winning director Blake Zeff from the class of 1995. Join us for a student-led ceremony by Ava Thanis, Brianna Crossman, Andreas DeGrasse, and Catherine Weinberger for our distinguished alumni from 7 to 8 p.m. in the Jericho Public Library.
And this one the students are all so excited for. AP exams are set to begin on May 1st and will take place in our high school throughout the day. Students should make sure that they prepare their supplies and get a good night's rest before their exams.
High school orientation for incoming 9th grade students and parents will be taking place on May 2nd in the high school auditorium from 7 to 8 p.m. The presentation will include important information and expectations for our incoming students.
And the second blood drive of the year will be on Thursday, May 18th in the Sam Springer Gym from 9 to 2:30. There is currently an emergency blood shortage, so please consider donating. Anyone 16 or older can donate, and all students who donate need parental consent.
And that's it for this month. We'll see you all again on May 18th.
Thank you. PTA Council, Allison Edelman.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Ed members, Central Administration, faculty, staff, and community members. I'm Allison Edelman, and I'm president of the Jericho Joint PTA Council, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight. Since I last presented at the March Board of Ed meeting, the Jericho Joint PTA Council has continued to be very active. Dr. Dan Salzman, Curriculum Associate for English, Language, and Arts, met with us to discuss outstanding ELA curriculum for grades K to 12, summer reading assignments, AP English classes, writing tips for college essays, and more. He listened to our parent feedback and informed us on some new exciting things happening in his department. Each month, we invite a different Jericho faculty member to our Joint PTA Council meetings. This format has proven very successful for both our PTA members as well as administration. It's a great way to share ideas, provide feedback, and learn from each other. We feel privileged to have this open dialogue with administration. On Tuesday night, last night, we held our second Parent University of the Year. This one was done on Zoom in order to invite a panel of Jericho alumni to speak to our parent and student community about their college experiences. Once again, it was a huge success. We always like to provide a range of schools to participate so there is something for everyone. It was a great turnout and always a highlight of the year. I'd like to thank Mr. Greg Sloan and Ms. Adrienne Nasser for putting the successful evening together. College can be a very unnerving experience. Listening to our amazing alumni speak and thrive after leaving Jericho puts a lot of minds at ease, and we look forward to their successful future. Besides putting together the officer slates for next year, each unit has been planning some very special events. Cantiac hosted a Jump Rope for Heart fundraiser in memory of Hallie Huang, a student classmate and friend who passed away last year. This special event, organized by Dr. Sapienza, teachers, staff, as well as PTA, helped raise over $28,000 for the American Heart Association. Everyone wore purple to honor Hallie's favorite color. It was a very special event. Jackson had a very successful multicultural night held in the middle school high school auditorium. The place was packed and included performances that culminated in a finale of We Are the World. It was a very special night bringing the community together. Ratner Seaman has been busy planning their staff luncheon, spring concert, and plant sales. All three schools will be coming together to create a special night for the incoming 6th graders. The Harlem Magic Masters will be coming to Jericho in June to entertain the children and play in a competitive game against our faculty and staff. It will be a fun night for all and a great way to bring the 5th graders of the 3 elementary schools together before entering middle school. SEPTA has a Cookies and Canvas event coming up in May. This was a great event last year, and we expect it'll be even better this year. The middle school has been helping our student navigate their digital work responsibly. Last year, Jericho Middle School was recognized by Common Sense Media for the work our students engage in related to digital citizenship. Students learned about the concept of a digital footprint and the problems associated with oversharing online. We appreciate the work the district is doing to help students use the power of technology in an ethical and responsible manner. The high school is looking forward to celebrating Commitment Day for all seniors on April 28th. The PTA leaders will be fundraising that day to continue to raise money for their senior party, and the students will proudly wear their college swag on their shirts after many months of waiting for decisions. Congratulations in advance to all our seniors on their college decisions. What a smart and talented group they are. Thank you to everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you, Allison. We're going to now ask John Mankiewicz to come up to do the K-12 health curriculum report.
I don't think I need a mic. So, thank you everyone for coming tonight. A little disappointed that I thought that crowd was for me. Need a mic. Oh, for that, okay.
Okay. Okay, so I've been asked tonight to introduce our K-12 health curriculum. So as we move forward, so our health curriculum, I feel we have a very intensive curriculum, really starting at elementary in a little bit of a lower level, and then gearing up as we go through middle school and at the high school level. Okay, like any content area, we are driven by the New York State Learning Standards. These standards were developed back in 1990. They are still the health standards. That is changing. So just like physical education standards changed 2 years ago, okay, the health standards are being worked on at the state level. So hopefully in the next year or so, we will have new standards, and then we will take the time to look at our curriculum and then match up and make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students through our standards-based education. So a lot of people always ask, what is the state health curriculum? The state has provided us with different guidelines. So they call it Navigate by the Stars, okay, which provides health educators with different guidance. So some of the things that we really focus on, okay, let me just get my thing. Okay, are the different skills that we want our students to know, and that could be self-management, relationships, stress, communication, planning and goal setting, okay, decision-making and advocacy. And then we move to functional knowledge, where we focus on physical activity and nutrition, HIV and AIDS, sexual risk, family life, sexual health, tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs, unintentional injury, violence prevention, and then other health-related areas. Okay. So those are kind of a lot of the topics that you'll see as we go through. that we focus on. You may see similar topics as we go from elementary to middle school to high school. And when we do those, obviously, we do it at an age-appropriate level for our students. Okay, so we start with elementary health concepts. Okay, these concepts are usually integrated through physical education activities, okay, within the physical education setting. So we'll look at health-related fitness, health goal setting, nutrition, mindfulness practices, hygiene, and then interpersonal communication skills. The one thing I always say is when I got here to Jericho 13 years ago, the number one thing they asked me to work on was our stress management, okay? And so you'll see that common theme also throughout our health curriculum. Okay, we do a lot with mindfulness programs, okay, stress relieving, okay, at all levels, because we understand that, you know, our kids are looking to achieve at very high levels, and that builds a lot of stress. So we look to help them through our health and physical education programs. Okay? Favorite day of every elementary principal, okay? 5th grade maturation day. And I'm happy to say, next Friday, if you're an elementary parent in 5th grade, get ready, the talk is coming. Now, how do we do this, okay? So what we do is we provide an introduction to our students, okay, in 5th grade, boys and girls, to prepare students for the biological changes, okay, that take place at this stage of development. All right? So it's done by our middle school health teachers, okay, Ms. Gambakis and Ms. Galati. Right? So there's a video that the students will watch. What we will do is we send that video home to parents. Okay, they'll probably get that on Monday. So they can watch the video at home. It's the same video that their child sees, so they have a better understanding of what we're teaching and what it is. Okay, the misconception used to be that we're teaching sex education to these kids in 5th grade. We're not doing that. We're talking about biological changes and what the children go through so that they understand. Some of them are already going through it in 5th grade, and we understand that, but this seems to be the grade level when you talk to any school district where they really do this program. Okay, there's a true-false pretest. Okay, the students will take it, all right, and then there's student-generated questions. Now, you can only imagine the questions that come about. Okay, so what happens is the students will write their questions on an index card. Okay, those will be collected, and then the teachers will sort through and make sure that they're relevant and they're appropriate. So, and that's the program. And it lasts about an hour. Okay, we split up to 5th grade. Okay, girls with the girls, boys with the boys. Okay, we then move on to our middle school health curriculum. We start off very basic. What is health? Okay, the different aspects of health, whether it's physical, mental, social. Okay, setting goals and what are values. Okay, we move on. Here we go again. Mental health, okay? Big topic in health. Positive versus negative stress, identifying different stressors that they have. Every kid is different, right? Identifying personal symptoms of stress, and then personality types. In 7th grade, again, stress reduction, coping strategies, relaxation techniques. If you've ever come to an open school night, parent night, and you go to the cafeteria, how many of you have made a stress ball? That's right. I know sometimes more at the high school level, but they love their stress balls. So, different relaxation techniques, breathing exercises, visualization, meditation. So we try to do all this to give students that opportunity to learn how to handle the different stresses they face in their lives. Okay, we talk about emotions in 7th grade. Physiological reactions, how do we control our emotions? Sometimes when we're feeling, you know, it coming out, how do we take that step back, take a breath, okay? Learn how to understand how we can control these things. Okay, different communication. It's amazing, you know, kids are great on their phones, okay, they can text, they can do whatever, but sometimes their communication skills need a little work, so we touch on that. Okay, then there's a component of sexual harassment, the different types, identifying behaviors, and how do you make it stop, what to do and how to handle those types of situations. We move to 8th grade, okay, here we get a little more in depth with things, okay, different diseases, okay, how do we prevent them, okay, how does our immune system work into that? Okay, infectious diseases and different pathogens, okay, non-infectious diseases, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, how do we prevent them in our lives, and what can we do with them, okay? Again, we hit on maturation, human sexuality, we talk about puberty, reproductive system, we talk about anatomy in that aspect, okay? Different diseases, okay? The big focus whenever we talk about human sexuality and sex education is abstinence. That is the #1 thing that we talk about. But we also do have to talk about pregnancy prevention, okay? So we do all of that. Okay, drugs, okay? Vaping, probably the #1 topic that we talk about with our kids, It's one of those things that's sold, oh, it's not so bad, but they're really starting to find out, the negative effects of it and how it's affecting our kids. Opioids, and then different other drugs. And this is, remember, this is 8th grade, so we keep it at kind of that learning level, Erin's Law is something new that's come into play, with the state. Last year, we integrated it into our elementary school with our social workers. They do a great job with their mini lessons with our kids. And then we integrated it into our 8th grade health curriculum to make sure that students have an understanding about sexual abuse, consent, and then getting help they need if they feel they're in a situation, that's not healthy. We moved to the high school. So in Jericho, if you're in 10th grade, you have health. There's occasions where they may not be able to fit it or something, but all 10th graders will take health. Again, number one thing we talk about, mental health and wellness, stress management, all right? The importance of sleep. I always laughed here, I got here, I was like, these kids don't start school till 9 o'clock. Oh, they must be great. But then I find out, it's like, they're up until 2 o'clock in the morning, so even though they start at 9, where my son's school starts at 7:10. So I'm always forcing him, like, you gotta get to bed, you gotta get your sleep. Suicide prevention, who to talk to. Mental health disorders, and then brain development. We move into drug and tobacco. There's that vaping thing again. It's with us, and we're always on top of it and trying to educate our kids on how bad it is for them. All right? We do talk about steroids. Marijuana. Everyone thinks marijuana is legal now. It's all over the place. I mean, we have to explain to the kids. While in some aspects it's been legalized, at the same time there are different effects. And we need to make sure that they understand that. And the big thing with the opioids is fentanyl right now. You hear it in the news all the time. The one thing I feel our health teachers do an outstanding job with is taking elements from the news that's out there and that's relevant in our society today and pull that into their lessons. So when we say that you hear fentanyl all the time, our teachers have no problem switching real quick to a mini lesson that will be related to what's happening on in society today. Again, human sexuality. If you were here about 7 years ago, Newsday had a big article in their editorial about sex education in schools and how it's handled. So I had the pleasure of doing a human sexuality board presentation that year. And we really did go in depth of what we are teaching, and really, we really focused on, reproductive systems, abstinence, different contraceptive methods, and then HIV/AIDS is a mandated area of conversation, through New York State. We also had other topics in CPR. After the football incident last year, everyone wanted to make sure that every kid knew CPR. So while we do that in 10th grade every year, we went back to, in phys ed this year, every student received a lesson on what's called bystander or hands-only CPR. And in talking with our teachers, we decided that's something we're going to keep every year in phys ed. It's a one-day lesson, and we feel it's very important for all our kids. We're going to look to also incorporate that in the middle school as well as we move forward. Healthy relationships, impact of social media. Everything is on social media now, and the kids don't understand how it affects them. Someone posts something that they think is good, someone turns it around, and then it has a negative effect on it. It has a negative effect on their well-being, their mental awareness, so we try to work with them on those concepts. Goal setting, and again, there's mindfulness. We bring in a lot of speakers. We're very lucky here that we have Dr. Smith and Dr. Goldstein. They come in and talk to our classes all the time about a range of topics. Our partnership with Northwell Health has been amazing. They've come in to do vaping, body image. The high school arranged that we did a whole program. We brought all the physical education classes in during the course of the day about healthy relationships. The Long Island Crisis Center comes in to talk to students about suicide. So there's a lot of different things that we do. We also have assessments, just like in any other content area. So when we do our assessments, yes, there are the paper and pen assessments like normal, but we really try to provide our students with functional knowledge, using technology and getting information. So we work closely with our school librarians to do this, teaching kids how to use research. One of the best projects that they do is called Falling Stars. Well, students will pick either an actor, an athlete, a rock star, who may have gone down that road of addiction, and that's why it's called Falling Stars, and they researched that person and what drugs they got into and how they overcame it or what they did. And it's a really nice, one of those project-based assessments that we do that our students really strive to do well in, and that they really like getting that hands-on experience. And that's it.
About Adderall abuse at the high school level?
I'm sure that's one of the drugs that they talk about.
Two questions. One is, you mentioned that they're using the health standards of 1990.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what areas of focus they are changing?
For the university, I do not.
No. And then one other thing was I see that we start addressing actual mental health disorders at the high school level, but has there been any
I think we touch base at the middle school as well, because we understand that that's, again, one of those topics that's across grade levels.
Okay, and we saw it at the high school
Okay.
level, but just wanted to make sure, see if there was a reason
Yes.
why it wasn't, but the sort of mental health issues we can see.
Thank you.
John, I want to underline that one of the areas that I'm most pleased that you picked up and run with is CPR training for our kids, expanding it with our staff and expanding it into both our middle school and high school programs. And I think that's a major plus for our students, and I thank you for picking that up and running with that ball.
Thank you.
John, we have a question, another question.
I just have a question. I didn't see like gender identity anywhere on the,
That might be a concept where if a child has a question, we'll provide
but
definitions.
it's not part of our curriculum.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent. You read this.
Thank you. Our enrollment as of April 14th, 2023 is 3,350 students. That is an increase of 4 students over our last report. A couple of other things that I want to report to the board. Is Ethan with us this evening?
Yes,
You're here. I have some terrible news for you. We are planning to have a snow day on Friday before Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to call it the Ethan Brown Snow Day. It is very rare for us not to have a snow day. I think we've had it in the last couple of years. We've had one occasion where we've not had a snow day, and in kind of looking at the school year and looking at the stresses and strains of the school year and listening to your comments at our last meeting, Ethan, we thought it would be a great opportunity to make Memorial Day weekend into a 4-day weekend. Also, we were just informed today, and again, it's been an annual event, but we've been awarded one of the best communities for music education. It's an annual award that's given out by the National Music Educators Association, and for one more year, we continue the string of being recognized as best communities for music, and we congratulate our incredible music staff and the accomplishments of our young musicians in elementary school and middle school for helping us attain that. We'll also share with you, we've made transition to computer-based testing in grades 3 through 8. We did some practice testing in January, and we're now doing the grade 3 through 8 ELA testing, and I can report that the feedback that we got from staff and from students is that it could not have gone more smoothly than it went today. We're really pleased with the hard work of our staff, of our technology staff in supporting our teachers, and our kids seemed not too stressed as they went through the grade 3 through 8 ELA testing. So really pleased with day 1 in testing. The last thing I have on my list, and I know it's a question that's been asked, as everyone's aware, the board did appoint an investigator. The investigator provided an update to the Board of Education earlier this evening in executive session, and I'd like to inform the community that the process is still under discussion and is still continuing. And that's my report.
Thank you.
I just had a question with regards to the crew team. I know there was discussion about it, awaiting board approval or budget approval, but I know there's a lot of buzz and excitement surrounding it. So
Debbie,
I'd like
we
to see what's going on with that.
sincerely appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And again, we shared with John that there was a large number of students who potentially were interested in crew. John has made arrangements through the Oyster Bay Rowing Club, in a very similar arrangement that the Syosset School District has with the rowing club. It is included in our upcoming budget, and with a successful budget vote, we will be moving forward with a crew program in the coming school year, and we thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Opportunity for the public to be heard. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, please tell us your name and affiliation if you're representing a specific group. If you'd like your statement to be included in our board minutes, you must hand a copy of your remarks to Victor before speaking. If you want to ask a question and you're not here, please email to boequestions@jerichoschools.org and your name and question will be read. Please don't text or email board members. It should be sent to boequestions@jerichoschools.org. As always, public discussion on matters relating to staff and students at which their reputation, privacy, or right to due process, or those of others could in some way be violated is prohibited.
Just question, Mrs. Citron, are we continuing the censorship policy we adopted last month, limiting comments to only district residents and community school members, or is anyone available to ask a question this month?
The resolution we did last month said this tonight, so.
So no censorship. Okay, thank you.
Well, we didn't call it censorship, but if you want to call it that, it's your prerogative.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Administration. On October 25th, 2022, the Board of Education held a special board meeting. The board voted 4-0, with one member recusing himself, to hire special counsel to conduct an independent investigation. I was wondering if there was an update to that investigation. Thank you.
Who is the question? The question was from Ms. Nash?
Oh, I thought she was reading the questions from the website. I didn't know.
No, it's my own question.
Okay. Mr. Powers?
Sure, so the Board of Education. Thank you. The Board of Education actually hired Gersio & Gersio, an education law firm here in Suffolk County, to conduct the investigation. They've assigned the matter to Ashley Pope. Ashley Pope has actually started the investigation. She's well along with it, as I understand. And also there's going to be certain findings presented to the Board of Education. I think she was shooting for May. So that is the update. In terms of what her findings are, I am not privy to that information, but the investigation is almost complete at this point, ma'am. Sure.
Are there any emails to the BOE question? Okay. Okay, moving along. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education make any necessary corrections and move the approval of minutes of the executive session dated March 29th, 23, the regular meeting dated March 30th, 23, and the BOCES budget meeting dated April 18th, 23. Do I have a motion? Jen, second. Chris, any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Unfinished business. Adoption of policy 5621. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopts the following policy: 5621, fixed and capital asset inventories, accounting and tracking. Do I have a motion? Jen, second. Sam, any discussion? I believe this is something that was required by our accountants based on changes to the
Yes.
accounting rules. right?
Yes.
All in favor? Thank you. Adoption of policy 7610, be it resolved that the Board of Education adopts policy 7610, special education district plan. Do I have a motion? Jen, thank you. Second, Chris, any discussion?
I actually have a question. Does this special education plan, does it apply to our scope pre-K children who require special services? Does the policy, the special education district plan policy?
No.
It does not?
No.
So
No.
children who
So
require.
CPSE, that would be under Committee for Preschool Special Education. And so it goes through our offices, but we follow Nassau County regulations. And services are paid through Nassau County.
Thank you.
So it doesn't fall under CSE purview until they reach kindergarten?
No, until they get to kindergarten,
Right.
yes. Not as 3 and 4 year olds.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you. Acceptance of first reading, policy 5660A. Be it resolved that the Board of Education accept the first reading of policy 5660A, meal charging and prohibition against meal shaming. Do I have a motion? Jen, second. Sam, any discussion?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Not without regard to the free meal or the subsidized students, what collection policies do we have for students who have outstanding balances? What is the total amount of money owed collectively at any given time?
So our process is to provide a report to each of the principals on a monthly basis. They in turn send individual emails to the parents, and if that doesn't work, then they proceed to do individual phone calls to the parents and letting them know that the account is, needs funding in order to continue.
But we don't shut children off, correct?
No, actually, that was the one strikeout we made in the policy, because I believe a policy read that they would only allow to be charged up to 10 meals. But again, we legally really can't.
I understand. Do you have any ballpark figure for how much money currently is owed to the Jericho School District?
It's up from the year that it was free, but it's not significant. It's not material to the cafeteria fund.
Thank you.
A couple of thousand.
Hi, Victor. I have a question, a couple questions actually. So for, in the third paragraph, charging of items outside of the reimbursable meals, a la carte items, is expressly prohibited. So snacks and drinks are not, we're not allowed to.
So correct. If someone's account is negative, we will provide them a lunch,
Yes.
but we will not provide them a snack or something that's a la carte.
Right.
And then add to the negative balance. That we will do.
Fine, but if there's a student that is having financial difficulty, and that student, I understand we're providing lunch, but let's just say that student is staying after school for an activity and they need a water or a snack, are we not allowed to provide that?
I'm not saying we're not allowed, so it's, the initial question, I thought you meant with folks that had negative balances. Are you talking about students that are free and reduced?
So it could be both, but it could be a negative balance could be due to the fact that there might be some kind of hardship.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a chronic problem and we're aware of it, we will take care of a child.
Okay, so, but once again, I mean, at that point, lunch is over, it's the end of the day, can they go to someone? Is someone available that they could say, hey, I need a bottle of juice or a snack? You know, they stayed after school, it's 5 o'clock in that, evening.
Yeah, the cafeteria is not open at that point, but.
Vending machines, no, obviously that wouldn't apply.
I'm sure if they were there for a club or for any type of after-school activity, the coach and or club advisor was there.
Okay.
And if there was a situation, our teachers are wonderful, they'll help out.
Right, so it's not a matter of staff being trained to, because there's no staff at that point, it sounds like.
In the cafeteria? No,
Right, in
there's
the
no staff.
cafeteria. Okay, and then, for B, it says reduced meal benefit, eligible students will be allowed to receive a lunch of their choice for an amount not to exceed 25 cents each day. Is that a typo?
I'm sorry, which page are you reading?
Page one.
Page 1 and B, it says 25 cents each day. 25 cents does not sound right.
Oh, that's the reduced, so free and reduced. So
Right,
if
but
someone-
is it 20, is it?
It is 25.
Oh, it is 25 cents? So once again, can you just explain to me how that works?
Sure, there's the free and reduced
Yes.
program, if someone is eligible for that because they're economically disadvantaged, it falls into one of two categories. It's either free or it's reduced. The reduced price is 25 cents. That's the legal, that's not what we're charging.
I understand.
That's the legal charge. And quite honestly, I think all.
It's just like a nominal number, it sounds like. It just sounds like it's.
Yeah, we didn't make it
Right.
up, but
Okay.
I don't think we have anyone on reduced. I think
Ah.
the students, all of our students are free.
Okay.
All of our students that are eligible are free.
Okay, so, and once again, just back to Sam's point, regarding C, we did strike out the maximum 10 meals.
Correct.
But do we actually have language that says that, if a full-pay student doesn't have funds available or they're negative, that they're allowed to take lunch? Do we have that language?
We don't need the language. That's
We don't need-
legally we
Okay.
have to.
So we don't have to have language? Okay, thank you.
That's why you struck out the 10, because theoretically, legally, you're not allowed to not provide them lunch.
All in favor of accepting the first reading? Thank you. Okay, approval of schedules. Schedule ID 13304.
Sorry, Jill, can I just interrupt? I would like to, talk about, and once again, if you wanna do it now, we can do it right after, but I just wanna, bring up a policy for new business, 3270. So can we take a minute to just, we'll talk about schedules after? So this is for Mr. Powers. We have a policy 3270, community use of school facilities. I wanna know, how can we make the language stronger so that, we don't allow, or once again, it has to go through board approval as the language is stated in 3270 when it comes to having, whether it's, any type of politician, law enforcement, any kind of press conference, media, without board approval.
Sure, you set the parameters as to who can use your facilities, so you can be as specific or as general as you'd like to be.
Okay.
So if 3270 is too general, you can certainly make it more specific. That's the way you address it.
Okay, so can we somehow, I would like to make it more specific. So is there a way that we could just talk about this for a few minutes? Do you have the policy in front of you?
I didn't know we were
No.
talking about this.
Okay, yeah, I apologize, yeah.
No, you can,
So,
now you can certainly email to me, I'll take a look at it and expand it if that's what you want me to do. And then for any suggestions that you make, I would then share with the Board of Education for a future discussion. That's probably the most efficient way to address this.
and so can you just, I guess, explain this to us in the public session? As I read it, it does state that any school, community use of the school facility does have to go through the Board of Education. Is there any reason that there should be any situation that it should not? That process should be bypassed in any way, whether it's by the superintendent or one of the board members?
Well, process is process. You know, there are circumstances where something happens at the last minute where you have to kind of shift gears.
Okay.
But for the most part, standards are set, there's a process in place, an analysis is done, then it's either granted or denied.
And again, historically, Jen, we will get requests for building usage between board meetings for an event that will happen before the upcoming board meeting.
Yes.
That happens on a very regular basis.
True.
So by and large, we have approved all such requests in the last many years. The only requests that we deny are typically for-profit organizations. Those we deny regularly, but anything coming from a not-for-profit or a group affiliated with the school district, we approve.
But even between board meetings, we can and have communicated by email. So, Mr. Powers, is it appropriate to say that the superintendent can present it to us in between the board meeting? The request came in after a board meeting, many weeks before the next one, and say, hey, we have this request. Are the 5 board members okay with it?
Sure, I mean, part of the process is to discuss what the request is and to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to allow your facilities to be used. So discussions can be held, absolutely.
But we can't bypass the discussion just because it's in between board meetings.
But can a board decision be made by email, Chris?
Absolutely not. There's something called the open meetings
So-
clause, so your
so then what
votes
do we
have to
do?
be out here. All of the work
Okay.
of the Board of Education occurs in this room or across the hallway.
Fine.
It doesn't occur on email.
So then how do those situations get handled when there's a request to use the facility in between a board meeting? Does the superintendent just have full reign to make that decision?
For the last 27 years, yes.
But that's not what this policy says. So that's why I'm just trying to understand where in the policy
Yeah.
does it say that in between meetings?
By understanding, the board has given me certain ability to decision make. For example, we hire people where we have a vacant position. The board has given me the authority to hire somebody pending board approval at the upcoming meeting. In the same fashion for the last 28 years and probably before that, we central office has made the decision on building use and then put it on a succeeding board agenda.
Mr. Grishman, I've only been on the board for 2 years. We've never had this specific discussion as far as full authority for the superintendent to make those decisions. Is this something that should be discussed from year to year as new board members come on? Because there maybe this is the way that it was done before, but I believe that there's now some discussion as far as school facility use.
And again, I think that's, based
And I
on,
think it's a major issue, and I think
well, it's based upon our most recent ed camp.
not just that.
Okay. Well, again,
It doesn't
whatever direction the board gives the superintendent, I will be happy to comply.
Okay, so it sounds like there already is a policy, so how do we now enforce that policy? Because it sounds like superintendent says he's done it in the past, so how do we move forward from here, Mr. Powers?
So if there are operational issues that need to be addressed, deference is often given to the administration, in particular to your CEO, Mr. Grishman. If you're now going to require that he not have that authority, you better be ready to meet every other day. Because there are a lot of things that he does where he's given, as an experienced superintendent, where he's given the discretion to make decisions and then notifies the board thereafter.
Okay.
And there are circumstances where that absolutely must occur.
Okay, so, and if we're not able to meet, maybe that use has to just be denied.
Well, that has not happened
If we're all on
for-
spring break?
For many years, but if you go to the extreme, you better be prepared.
When
So I
school's
think-
closed? When school's closed?
You were asking me what you can do about it. What you
Right.
can do about it is either have regularly scheduled board meetings every other day.
Okay.
Which is probably unrealistic for all of you that work, obviously. Or to continue with the deference to the superintendent exercising his user experience and his discretion to make these decisions on your behalf.
Okay, and once again, if a decision is being made during a time where school's closed, can the superintendent be making these decisions? The school's closed, board members are once again off as the same as everyone else.
In the past, Jen, I've approved Jericho Athletic Association use for the next day, without going to the board for approval. That's an example of requests that I get on a regular basis, sometimes in short-term notice.
Okay, but in this specific scenario, you had the time to reach out to the board president to invite her to the press conference that took place when the school was closed, but none of the other board members got that same invitation. Is there a reason?
Again, it was the last minute, it was over vacation, and made the decision that, Senator Schumer was proposing legislation to provide $25 million in additional support to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically to fight and zero in on the recent rash of hoax calls to school districts threatening either bombs or shooting incidents. And again, I did not see that, frankly, in my analysis of it. I saw it as a non-political piece of legislation that he was discussing, and felt it was okay to proceed.
I understand, but first of all, there's no legislation. I looked into it, there's zero legislation.
He said he is proposing it.
There's zero, I called Schumer's office. It was, he is looking to get money over to the FBI, and that's great. I'm all for that. I don't care who proposes that. But the point was, the press conference took place on school grounds. No one was notified. The board president was notified. She showed up. Okay, so if Mr. Powers is saying the superintendent has full power to, unless we take that power away, because that's how he's been operating for the past 20-something years, what about the board president? Is the board president acting as a board president without notifying any of the other board members showing up? That's a problem,
The
in my
president of the
opinion.
Board of Education has specific duties that are listed in your board policy book. She is the representative for the Board of Education. Oftentimes, it is the board president that communicates directly with the superintendent for issues such as this, like last-minute issues, and coordinating with agendas and that sort of thing. So this would be a circumstance where it would be perfectly appropriate for the superintendent, which is going to be, let's get together, there's some kind of a meeting here. You as the representative of the Board of Education are welcome to attend. He can do that. He is permitted to have that kind of communication with your representative, the board president.
But at that point, shouldn't we be notified? Hey guys, I'm showing up, you're more than welcome to come.
Sure, you can direct all communications for events such as this to also go to the entirety of the board. You can.
Okay, and that gets directly to the board president or to the
No,
superintendent?
what I'm saying, it would, if this kind of a communication were to occur, where the superintendent is communicating with the board president, you can direct the superintendent, say, we would also like to know about those communications. That, you have that authority to direct your CEO to do that.
Okay, well, first of all, for the record, I would like the superintendent to notify us and give us the opportunity to attend the same way he gave the opportunity to the board president in this case, but I guess I would still like to state that I think that it's important that any school use, any application, or whether it's done on a last-minute basis, be at least communicated in a proper format, and not just tell us that, hey, Schumer's doing something, you're gonna see it, he's presenting some kind of bill. There was no communication of a press conference. We did not know that that was gonna take place. So we kind of got half the story, and we only found out when I saw it on Fox 5 News. So I would just like to be able to function optimally as a board and know the full story, and whether or not we take sorry?
I was just checking. I think I did send something to the board that it was taking place.
No, you didn't say there was a press conference, and you didn't say there was media. You did not say that Jill would be there.
What did that email say? Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, I have a copy, but yeah,
I'll go, you go.
I mean, I could. There's nothing bad written in it, so.
No, but again, I think I did give the board a heads up that there was an event occurring.
Yeah.
The email at 10:05 said that Senator Schumer was going to
Sam,
use.
you're denotating, you're connotating, you're not denotating, because.
Correct. Let me look it up. In essence, she's got it.
I was just killing time.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Schumer is planning to announce a bill to increase funding for the FBI to help track the recent rash of hoax 911 calls to school districts. He will be doing this using Jericho schools as a backdrop, with a clear announcement that Jericho has not been a target. So there was never any mention of media, there was never any mention of a press conference, there was never any mention that the board president would be there. There was never any mention that you would be making comment yourself. You made it sound like Senator Schumer presenting a bill, backdrop, that's it.
And that was my understanding, Jen. I did not know that I was making a statement. Again, the fact that he was coming using Jericho as a backdrop, obviously there was going to be media there to take pictures of his announcement. So, I mean, again, I think that's implied.
I mean, I don't want to ever assume anything. I think that would be extremely wrong of me to assume anything, so I don't know.
How else can you read that?
It could have just been a photographer taking a picture. I didn't know there was an actual press conference. I mean, there is a difference.
I think that this is a policy that we talked about 3 weeks ago, and I think as it's now come out of the last couple minutes, this has nothing to do with what we talked about 3 weeks ago with the use of a property. Essentially what happened on April 6th, Senator Schumer was here, as you've heard, to give a press conference, which was basically political theatrics. And yes, we all agree that funding the FBI to help provide security at schools is a positive thing. However, there's a couple of things related to that press conference as well as related to policy 3270. One, talking about the JA using our fields is a lot different than having a partisan politician show up at our district to give a partisan speech. Now, you'll say, oh, it wasn't a partisan speech, he was announcing a policy. It was, there, as Mrs. Vartnoff said, there was no policy. He had actually made the same announcement the day before in Lockport High School in upstate New York. He made the same announcement 4 days later at Troy High School, Brockport, in Troy High School. I'm not as familiar as upstate as others. At Troy High School the following Monday, and the only reason he did it on Friday was because that was Good Friday. So this was political theatrics. Now, I'm sorry, Senator Schumer has been around for a long time. I think Senator Schumer actually does a great job for New York. He has a strong reputation as a sharp-elbowed Democratic Party loyalist. You don't become leader of your party without a strong focus on partisanship in politics. The superintendent already knows this. Okay, so to think that it was some general good thing going on, it wasn't. You know, unfortunately right now in our country, there's nothing that is bipartisan. So if someone tells you, oh, it's a bipartisan thing because it's in favor of this, no. There was another bill last year called the Luke and Alex School Safety Act, named after Parkland victims, and it wasn't even looking to spend a penny. It was looking to create a federal clearinghouse on school safety best practices. And it was blocked in the Senate. And who blocked it in the Senate? Senator Schumer. Okay, so this whole thing that this was in everybody's goodwill and stuff like that, we're all smart enough to know that's not the case. Now, with regards to the use of the facilities, I agree. The JA calls you up and says, we need fields today because we've got a rain out at Seaman, we need to use the high school. No problem, go ahead, give them the approval. I personally disagree with Mrs. Varda. I don't want to know about that. I do believe that you should have the authority to do that. However, if there are outside groups coming onto this property, especially when they are going to be doing things that may upset people in this community, Senator Schumer's presence doesn't upset me. It upsets me that he's making an announcement about swatting, where the Jericho School District, as you say, has not been a target of swatting. Why would you put an X on your back by having a press conference saying, I'm out there to attack swatting, but don't worry about it, Jericho High School hasn't had a problem? I mean, there are crazy people out there. The first person they're gonna call next is gonna be Jericho High School. It was an unnecessary risk to put our school into. And I believe that, Mr. Powers, when we talk about specificity, I mean, this policy says the use of schoolhouse grounds and property of the district out of the school hours without the permission of the board is absolutely prohibited. I agree that we probably need to add some other language. I agree that there needs to be a distinction between parts of the Jericho community, whether they be PTA, whether they be JAA, whether they be Girl Scouts, whether they be other associations that would need our property. But if we have outsiders coming onto our property, that is something that the board needs to approve. And you know what? If Senator Schumer, we can't get in touch and we can't get a board meeting so that Senator Schumer can have his political theatrics on our property, so be it. He can go to Syosset, he can go to Roslyn, he can go to Wheatley, he can go to Locust Valley, wherever he would like to go. But this was clearly a political announcement. Second of all, I think, to follow up on Mrs. Vartnoff's point, the email that you sent, if that's all you knew, that's all you knew. Clearly, there was a lot more to it. I do not know at what time the press conference was held. As you said, the email came out at 10 o'clock, or what time? 10:02. I assume the press conference was soon thereafter because most of these things get done in the morning, though obviously I could be wrong. But this policy needs to be tightened up. This is the type of thing where the good governance that I've been talking about for 2 years, it's about transparency, it's about accountability, it's about adherence to policy. All of those were absent here. And I don't think it even bothered going into the discussion of the fact that, as Mrs. Vartanoff pointed out, it wasn't just Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer, it was the superintendent and the board president, part of this press conference on Channel 5 News, sitting up there on the side like they're his aides. And then it was the superintendent giving a speech afterwards. That is not use of property. That is something that this board needs to know about, that this board needs to discuss, and this board needs to approve. And I think it was very, very disheartening to see the superintendent and the board president disregard that.
Again, it's up to the board to revise the policy, and we will follow any revisions to board policy. However, I strongly disagree with you that the event was a partisan event. Again, Senator Schumer, in his announcement that he was moving to find that funding, said that he had bipartisan support to move forward. And again, I see $25 million to support public schools and the safety in public schools as a nonpartisan event. We agree to disagree, Sam. You see it as a partisan event. I did not, and I support any politician in Congress who would add additional funds specifically to support the health and safety of our kids.
And before we take some comments, or before other board members have to say it, I mean, look, at two things. One, I believe it was $10 million that he talked about. And second of all, first of all, as Mrs. Vartanoff, there is no bill, so to have bipartisan support just doesn't exist. Second of all, as I said, there are policies last May, no money, just to create a clearinghouse of best practices. And Senator Schumer killed it simply to deny the Republicans or his opponents a small political victory in an election year because it was introduced by Republicans. As I said, I'm a fan of Senator Schumer. I think does a good job for New York. But we as a district should not be doing this, because as we've also talked about in the past, what do we do the next time a politician shows up here and says, I would like to use you as a backdrop for this? Look, our local representative is George Santos. I'm happy to say I would prefer him not to give a press conference here. But if we've just let Senator Schumer come here and give a press conference, what are we going to say? When he calls up and says, I'd like to make a bill that we're going to give $25 million to public schools here in my district in Long Island. Again, you just said you're going to let anybody who's offering $25 million for schools to show up. What basis do we have to say that? And I think that is the problem that we have. Because this is a conversation that has been had. Once you let one person, and again, maybe it goes to Mr. Powers, I do not know if there is law on this, that we can say we will only accept certain politicians into our district. We will only accept politicians who are proposing bills that we happen to agree with. We are only proposing bills that the superintendent happens to agree with, or the board president happens to agree with. Because what we had 3 weeks ago was, as Dr. Foresto said, that going forward, the use of our property should be going through a much more stringent vetting process. That was 7 days before this event. So it's not as if this is a policy just because it's been around for 16 years or was initially adopted 25 years ago. This was something we had just talked about. Dr. Foresto had said, we need to vet stuff going on. And here we are 7 days later, letting this occur. So I think it's great that we have a policy, but that we're going to get a new policy. We have a policy. Use of property out of school hours without the permission of the board is absolutely prohibited. And I do believe there's a major difference between outside groups and members of the Jericho community.
If the board wants me to follow that policy to the letter, I'm more than happy to do that. I will point out, Sam, that your comment about Schumer's original blocking was during, as you said, during legislative season. This took place in April. It has nothing to do with an upcoming election. And again, for that reason, I did not see it as political. If this were in November, I would say, okay, it may have something to do. This was in April. There's no political gain in him making an announcement in April to raise funds for the FBI. However, if the board wants to, whatever they want to do with the policy, we will follow the policy. And again, when you talk about Mr. Santos, Again, I think that is a very different situation than Mr. Schumer.
But we've given up the high ground. Second of all, everybody who knows Senator Schumer, he is a politician 100% of the time. He is campaigning 110% of the time. We live in a district, as we were talking about Mr. Santos, that has been a Democratic district for years and years and years, okay? It is a very contested district. Anytime Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer can come here and campaign for whomever is going to be running on the Democratic ticket, he's doing it. There is no in this country, there is no non-campaign time anymore. We've got people running for president in 2 years. They're already running, or a year and a half. This goes on constantly. So I think that that's wrong, and I don't like the approach, because we've said this before, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna send you every approval. No, I don't think that's the right approach. But I think when we have outside groups, and like all this is already in the policy, where it says if there are groups that could potentially offend or divide the community, like this is in the policy already. This is clearly one of those things. Again, unless a board member, unless Dr. Foresto has something to say about the vetting process, or Dr. Balachandar, maybe some of the people who've had their hands up for a while could get a chance to speak, hopefully.
I was just gonna say, why don't we just plan to look at policy 3270 and then have a better conversation about what we would like to have in place here, rather than just going on and on.
What I would recommend, if you have suggested changes, certainly email to me. I will then put them together, send it out to the entirety of the board and the administration, and we can have a productive discussion down the road, no problem.
And,
That would be great, because
Sam, can someone else speak, please? I would like to say that, what? What are you mumbling? I had
You don't want
said
to
that.
tell us about the press conference, I said.
I just found out that morning, and I honestly did not believe that it was partisan. Maybe I'm naive, but I did not think that every time a politician speaks, something that is going to be good for the schools, good for safety, which I believe to be one of the most important issues that we have to address is school safety, something that was supporting school safety. I stand by what I did. I don't believe that I did anything wrong. I was asked to go that morning. I didn't know that we were going to be standing behind him, and I
Could have said no.
But
Even
even if it was right, you should have emailed the board and said, hey, I'm going to.
I told you that if I thought anything was controversial, that I would not speak for the board. I do have the authority to do that, and I don't believe that was controversial.
You do not have the authority to operate by yourself.
I can speak for the
No,
board.
you do not.
But I told the board that I would not speak for them if I believed something was controversial, and I did not believe it was controversial.
But you didn't ask us our opinion about going there.
Because I didn't think it was something that was controversial. I've always asked you if there was some email that I was going to respond to that I thought was controversial.
You should be the most knowledgeable on this board, because
you
you've been on this
disagreed
board
with
the
my
longest.
judgment, but that was my judgment call.
Fine, I disagree with your judgment, but you're not taking any accountability. You're not saying that you're wrong. You're still saying that you think you're right.
Because I didn't think it was controversial.
Right, so.
Wait, no, can you sit down? Jean, Dina, you've had your hand up the longest.
First of all, I don't know why it's okay, everybody can hear me. I don't know why you're giving a lot of credence to the politics. I would prefer, as a taxpayer, that you do more about the policy personally, and that you move forward and you change. You're giving the politicians way too much credit and way too much airtime of what we are here to talk about. The second thing is, if you're gonna do something, then I wanna know, what are you gonna do, to the entire board, what are you gonna do when there are people in the community that just use our grounds as a staging block for their ideals, and they may not be the ideals of everybody in this community? I mean, a couple of years ago, we had things going on with the shelter, and people were standing there on Jericho property.
And Hank blocked it, and Hank blocked it, and Hank blocked it.
I saw it in 12, and I think a lot of other people.
We were never allowed on property. We were never allowed on property. Everyone here knows this.
As a board, then you should also get phone calls on those things that are happening as well.
That's why the superintendent blocked it, because we weren't allowed on the property.
So is that why you're
Absolutely
like,
not.
doing this as a
Absolutely
proper
not.
procedure?
I've done nothing on this board to be revengeful in any way.
So they can talk and
Absolutely not. I give my 110% on this board to do what's right for this community every single day. Every single day.
Does that include that included being prepared for each of my board meetings at the time and having my questions ready beforehand, so we could discuss it properly with the right information.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that doesn't happen with certain members of the board. They chose to bring things up at this moment in time, and we end up spending a lot of time getting incorrect information, or we have to check or we have to see. As a person sitting here on this side of the room, I would like to see the same courtesy done for all of these people sitting here, regardless of what side you are on whatever it is, but it'd be better for people to be prepared also.
This is a public board meeting, you have a choice to be here, you don't have to be here.
And
This
then
is
I'm
a
not
public
talking about
discussion
board
amongst the board.
members being prepared
This is a
to
public
letting
discussion
the
amongst the
attorneys
board
know
members,
so
and I'm
we'll
having a
have to
discussion
talk
with
about
my four
Instead of
other
just
board
having
members
our
and the
voices
superintendent and the school lawyer. This is not a discussion with you, though we are open to all comments, not, no, we don't just pick and choose, we
I
open to all.
understand that, I've never done that, I've never seen the board
Great.
pick and choose.
We are talking amongst the board members and the superintendent and the school lawyer about a board policy. Thank you.
Ira?
A couple of things. One is, I don't believe this is something that should be handled by email between the board and the lawyer. This is a subject of open meetings law, and this is something that should be discussed among the board in public, not in private meetings. If you want to change a policy, the policy is a district-wide policy. It should be discussed at a table like this, open to the public. That's how
That's
these
not what I was
things are
suggesting.
supposed to work.
Ira, what I was saying is send me the changes, I'll put them together, synthesize them, send them to the board for discussion.
Yeah, but perhaps.
As opposed to, all of a sudden,
No,
let's talk
but
about
there should
policy
be
1,
a
2, 3, 4
board
tonight.
discussion. It could be an agenda item. The board's gonna discuss policy 1, 2, 3, 4. They should have their discussions.
That's what he said.
I thought I heard you say to send them emails.
Now, send me your suggested changes, I'll then take the policy, look at the changes, and send it out to the board for their review, so we can have an open
But their
discussion. at the board
suggested changes and their, whatever comments they have are subject of public discussion,
They will
not
be,
private
they
discussion.
will be, but they have to send to me a document that I can then present to the board for their discussion.
Okay, if it's
Yeah, it's
after
not like
public
sui
discussion.
sponte, let's talk about this immediately, it's not. I mean, that's not the way it works.
Second thing
Your
I'd like
board
to
policy
say-
must be 700 pages, you know, I don't know all 700 pages, the best way to do it, it's the most efficient way.
I will say that, if this is really about the safety of kids, we did have Schumer here, the backdrop of Jericho High School's, building mask. And coordinated with the article that Newsday wrote about Schumer's appearance here, they did name 5 or 6 schools where they've had these swatting incidents over the past number of months. And some of those districts, I believe, had numerous events, numerous occasions on the swatting. I do think that Schumer chose Jericho High School for a political reason. I do. And again, I'm surprised to, if you asked me to predict if George Santos's name was going to be mentioned at the Jericho School Board meeting, I would be surprised. But the fact is, Hank, I do believe that if it was George Santos's legislation or Marjorie Taylor Greene's legislation, or you would have probably politely declined. And again, Schumer, yeah, he is New York, and he's been New York for a long time. He's been an ally of this district. He's been an ally of education for a long, long time. But I do think particularly coming off our last discussion about the unfortunate professional development thing, it just seemed that it was at an awkward time, and I would just urge the board to read the policy carefully, have a public discussion if they want to make changes, and exchange ideas on it. But let's see if we could do it in a civilized way.
That's exactly what I was suggesting, Secretary.
Yeah, as a parent, I just don't feel like we should be talking about politicians in general at the board meeting. Regardless of, the past is the past, and really, we can't change that anymore. So beating each other up on these things doesn't help us. It's clear that this policy right now isn't sufficient in terms of its clarity to meet our current needs. All right, and I do agree that there is a facet of perception is a big part of what we need to maintain. And, you know, in sports and other places, we talk about, you know, perception is 50% of the truth right there, right? So we gotta consider that when we make these decisions. And if there is a risk that for us to be perceived in a certain way, then that should be brought to the board. And I think the best course of action is to do as has been suggested, but really focus in on what are the guardrails for when the superintendent can make a decision, and what are the guardrails for which he needs to bring that to the board. And I think that'll help him to make better decisions, and it'll bring clarity to the community. Because right now, it's clear to me, nobody's clear what those guardrails are.
Mr. Lynn, I appreciate your comments, and I think a lot of what you said was correct, but I just want to read to you from the policy. The use of schoolhouse, grounds, and property of the district out of school hours without the permission of the board is absolutely prohibited. And so from my standpoint, I understand that somehow we need to add more specificity or more guardrails. I don't know. And to Mr. Power's question about, or point about sending him suggestions, I think one of the reasons this was raised at a public meeting, to Mr. Checkler's point, is because I'm not quite sure how you make that any clearer. So that's my problem. I don't know how you make that clearer. It's like, it's simple. It's like 15, 20 words.
So Sam, so what you're suggesting, Sam, then is that we, from this day forward, I follow that policy 100%, and I will do that. I will follow that policy as written from this day forward. That's what you're suggesting, Sam. And again, so I get a request between now and our May board meeting from any organization, according to that policy, I'm going to say I cannot make a decision until the Board of Education meets. That's what that policy says.
I think we should have a discussion, all the board members, and I think that maybe we should exclude certain school groups from this, yes, all school
Yeah,
groups.
Sam is saying, as I hear him, we need to enforce the policy as it's written.
Well, I think we should further clarify this policy. Let's add language that school groups are excluded, and then we can also have a talk about it next time.
So, and Sam, let me respond, right? Of course. For me, it's not clear, because clearly there's a logistical problem for the board to have to be notified with every single request. So while the policy is written that way, it is not a feasible policy. So therefore, that policy is not clear, right? So at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is people don't agree on the guardrails of this policy and how this can be implemented. So let's go and focus on getting the policy rewritten with appropriate guidelines, appropriate procedures, and we can move on instead of attacking each other.
Sam, I'm sorry. I think, you know, I made some comments last month about the vetting process, and I think, you know, the sensitivities and, you know, community concern over how district property is used and district facilities is used is something that's to be respected. I think either extreme is unacceptable. I don't think we should have free open access for anybody and anything at any time, but at the same time, we don't want to, you know, close the district grounds down to organizations and individuals and groups that could, you know, run good programs here and do something good for the community. So I do think we need to go back and potentially retool this. The policy does exist, Sam. I totally give you that. I think we need to give the superintendent some latitude, but within, you know, within boundaries. So, yeah.
We've given, this superintendent has more latitude, I would expect, than just about any superintendent out there. That's what you get for 27 years. That's what you get for the other privileges that comes with experience.
Sure.
I think, and this is my opinion, and you know what, say what you want, I don't believe this one was even a close call. I believe there are close calls. I don't think this was even a close call. This was right down the middle. This should not have been allowed. For not just this part of the policy for any part of the policy. We've never allowed it. We've had discussions about allowing the politicians to present bills. Present bills that we had, that we were perfect for this community, that represented what this community was about, and we've still said no. I believe this was about reasons other than that. I think, I don't believe Senator Schumer just shows up and says, oh, gee, I'm here. I don't think Senator Schumer just shows up and says, oh, I'm not gonna speak, or I'm not gonna speak. Oh, you wanna speak? You wanna speak? That's not the way he operates. And unfortunately, we have a superintendent who knows that.
No, and I don't disagree with you. Politicians always want a microphone. That's fine, and that's well known. And I think we need to be very careful about hosting, any sort of, political event on district property, because you know as well as I that, of course, we want to, if we could get $25 million to make our schools safer, there's not a single person in this room who's going to, deny that opportunity. But on, page 1026 of that bill, there may be something that we don't care for so much. So that's tied to that $25 million. So again, we need to be careful. I think the policy exists. We're gonna, vet these things more closely, and again, as a board and open so that everybody can hear what we're talking about and we can be transparent. We'll improve on this.
You said that last time, and I like that you said vet better.
And I meant it.
But we're back right
Well,
where
no,
we
so you know what?
started.
But in this case,
We have some work to do. Do you agree?
Totally.
I
Okay.
think this was a mistake. You think this was a mistake to host a politician on
And,
property?
and just to be clear, this has nothing to do with the fact that Senator Schumer is a Democrat. I've given money to both. Because if anyone out there wants to say that I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, I've given money to both sides. This has nothing to, this could have been anyone. This was strictly breaking board policy that I became upset about, and the fact that our board president also, there's twofold. Superintendent didn't notify us properly, board president didn't tell us anything. So there's twofold of why I'm upset, and I'm talking about this today publicly, and I would like to make this policy stronger, so we don't have to have these discussions anymore.
So why don't we have a decision that we will discuss this policy. Chris will draft the policy during the conversation tonight for us to review in May. I will also recall a suggestion, Jen, that you made, that we invite Senator Blumenkrantz to the school district.
Because he was a former student and I wanted to congratulate him. He was a former student, he deserves a congratulatory
And is
welcome.
that any different?
Absolutely, it's not a press conference announcing a bill or anything, it's just, hey.
We have press here, we always have press here.
No, this is not press.
Yeah, George.
That's not the same thing, and are we gonna say that anyone who graduated Jericho and accomplished something, we shouldn't invite them to our board meeting to say congratulations?
I have no problem with inviting
That
Jake.
that was why I said let's invite Jake Blumenkrantz. I think that he should be invited, yes.
So again, I think to some extent, we're beating a dead horse. I think Chris has heard the discussion from the board. We could ask Chris to please put together a draft for us to discuss at our May board meeting.
And Mr. Powers, could you add, and maybe this is in the right spot, because the superintendent brought up just now a very good point about Mrs. Warknoff's invitation to a former student to be here after an election. I believe the superintendent, without board approval, invited a politician to our October or November meeting right before Election Day, who, to the best of my knowledge, I had never seen at a board meeting. Seems like a great guy. I'm not sure if I vote in the district where he was running. Chuck Levine, I'm sorry, he was here, didn't even bring a check with him, at least,
No, he did
when
bring
Josh Laffazette comes, he brings a check.
Sam, just to refresh your memory, how much was that check for? $250,000 check.
Anyway,
So again, just to clarify, Sam, he brought $250,000 to the school district, and I think he deserved a public thank you for giving us $250,000 to support our kids.
100% he does. And again, with you running the agenda, he shows up right before Election Day. I think that policy should be that politicians are not allowed here within 30 or 40, 60 days of Election Day. That we should not be taking sides. Again, you see, here we go. You see, this is what the British will say, throwing your toys out of the pram. Because someone says something that you disagree with doesn't mean to throw up your hands and say, I'm never going to approve anything onto this property. We can disagree on judgment calls, have a conversation.
You're the one who read the policy. You're the one who read the policy and said, we need to adhere to that policy.
Sam, didn't you just say they're politicking all year long? So having somebody before November, I mean, you can change it, but you just said up here tonight that they're politicking all year long. So what's the difference if they come when they give us the check in November, or they come after?
Okay,
So wait,
you know
no,
what?
well,
Can we-
no,
let's just
No,
move on
Mrs.
with-
No, Mrs. No, if Mrs. Levy's gonna make a comment, look, Mrs. Levy has
Okay,
created a
this will
habit.
be the last comment,
That's
then we'll
fine,
move
I'm
on.
sure she'll say that. Oh, I understand. Mrs. Levy has made a habit over the last 6 months of coming here and just trying to attack me for whatever reason she finds. There's a difference between politicians, okay? The Senate Minority Leader is someone who is
No, I was-
politicking
forgive me, I was
all
talking
year
about
round.
what
Again, you see,
Bart
now you wanna
Now
talk
said.
about it. I've got a
I'm keeping you
microphone,
on
you're gonna
track.
lose
What
the
Bart
argument,
Now
Mrs.
had
Levy.
just
I will
said.
stop so people can hear you, but understand, grab a microphone, you have a shot. Go ahead.
No, I was just explaining to you, I was talking about the situation where you were talking about Ms. Bartonell, and in general, that you said. I'm sorry, Jen, Bartonell. That you said that they're politicking all year long, so what's the difference? And so
Mr.
when it
Schumer
comes
is
to-
politicking all year long.
Well, you just, okay. I thought you were talking about politicians in general, forgive me, it sounded like you were implying that they, in general, so I was just.
No problem.
Doesn't
No.
make a difference.
And here's the thing. This started off as a very simple conversation. It wasn't about politicians. It was about that we typically have a policy and should have a policy with outside groups not being allowed onto our property without board approval. I don't believe that applies or should apply to the JAA or the PTA or the Girl Scouts or any other group, the Chinese Jericho Association, whatever other group wants to use our property, the JTA, the Administrators Union. I think these are two separate things, and I think that's what the policy needs to reflect. And I think that's generally how the policy has been respected over the last however many years. I think in this case, this was a bad judgment on our two senior officials in the district, our board president and our superintendent. And that's fine, and all we're trying to do is fix it.
Sam, I think you're all in agreement to do what you just said. Take the policy, put those exceptions out, and move on.
Ira, do you have something to say that's
Just
different
quickly,
than what we've already
just
said?
quickly, if you
We
look at
already agreed that we're gonna move on
if
and.
you look at subsection E of the 3270, I think you'll find a relatively easy, simple solution.
Thank you. Okay, we'll look at that. We're moving on. Approval of schedules. Schedule 13304 through U353. Do I have a motion to approve the schedules? Jen, thank you. Second, Chris, any discussion?
Mr. Manuel, on the cafeteria report, relative to last year, sales are up, margins are basically disappeared. Is that what we should expect to see under the new? And I'm fine, I'm not criticizing it. I am happy that the kids are happy with their food. Cafeteria does not need to be a profit center, but is that what we should expect to see going forward most months?
Not necessarily. If you're comparing year over year, at this point, I think the report was for February 28th? February. You know, Aramark was only here starting in December, so it was only a 2-month for Aramark being here. So it's, the whole last year with the free meals and this, there's a lot of different variables where it's very difficult to compare year over year. But dollar-wise, yes, that's a difference.
But margin, we shouldn't expect you making much margin on cafeteria going forward. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, well, we were always, you know, if you consider the transfer from the general fund on an annual basis.
We were funding.
We're funding it.
Yeah.
So I continued that budget for next year because I need a full year after this year to really assess any outside provider, whether it's Aramark or Whitson's or whoever ends up winning the bid. For a full 12-month period, because again, Aramark started in December. This report is only through February.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
While we're on cafeteria, I see that we pay them about $76,000 a month in the cafeteria report, but in the warrants, there was a check for $76,000 and another for $102,000. I don't know if
To
you know.
Aramark?
Yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know.
so I forgot which month was doubled up. I think it was January was doubled up for 2 months. So that was December and January, and then February is probably the more realistic, yeah. But then again, February had a whole week off, so, you know, it depends on the month, it depends on which recess. Like March should actually be a stronger month because the Easter Passover was in April this year, so April had a week. March was pretty much, there was school the full month.
I have a question regarding 13311, the general fund expenditures. Can you just explain for Board of Education, code 1010, what goes under this code?
1010 what?
Just says 1010, Board of Education budget 70,850. Like, just, like if you had to tell, like what goes under this?
1010 is the Board of Education
Yes.
line. There's a few codes in there.
There's only one code underneath it, A10404. It just says contractual and other $4,200.
1040 or 1010?
1010, and then underneath it is 1040.4.
Oh, so it's 400. So 1010 has, there's a conference code for when you guys go to the state conference.
Okay.
There's a supply code for like food for the board meetings.
Right.
Nothing significant.
But not, we don't eat $70,000 a year, right? Like,
Oh, no.
there's no
So,
way.
You know what,
The
I
food is not
bet
that
you,
good.
I bet you IQM2 is probably in that through BOCES. That's what the agendas are. So we pay BOCES for that through the, I think it's the 1010 code.
Okay, the software?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, you don't know what's that annual?
That's
It
less
shouldn't
than
be
20.
Yeah,
It's like between 15 and 20,000.
I mean, you wanna give, I mean, is there, if you wanna be more specific, you get back to me, that's totally fine.
I can get back to you.
I'm just curious, that's all, thank you.
Were we doing all the schedules? I didn't hear what you were doing through. Okay. Oh, and one last question, Mr. Manuel, Textbook Central, that's for textbooks that we buy for students who live in district but go to school out of district?
Yes, and it depends, certain private schools go through Textbook Central, which makes it easier for us because they're just automatically ordering the books. And then other private schools don't use Textbook Central, the parents come directly to us and we purchase the individual books.
So for kids who go to private school, we're responsible for buying their textbooks?
We're responsible for buying their textbooks, we're responsible for transportation.
I did transportation, I didn't realize we bought their textbooks.
And
My
for-
oversight for the last 2 years.
And for health services.
I knew that one? Okay, so
there's various
Thank you.
different expenses. Well,
A question about Schedule O, the services and consultant doctors. Dr. Binu-Chacko, is that a different doctor than our school doctor?
We contract with several psychiatrists that help us in evaluating staff and students.
Anything else? All in favor of the schedules? Jen, first, second, Sam, any discussion? Oh, we already took motion, I'm sorry, all in favor, sorry. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I was making a motion to go into executive session tonight. If, what?
What's the purpose?
For the purpose of discussing a private matter?
personnel?
Yes.
For purposes of the usage, you can come back to public session, or you can stop.
Just to adjourn the meeting.
We can adjourn the meeting and then go into public session? Executive session, okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, and I apologize, out of order, should have asked it during superintendent's report. Can the superintendent earlier tonight sent the board an update on where we stand with residency recertification? In certain areas, we're doing great. I was just hoping he could provide those numbers to the community, so the community can encourage their neighbors in 5th and 8th grade to fill out their forms. Yes, Mrs. Gedenkin is shaking her head because she is running the laggard over there.
We will have Denise put those numbers in the board notes, which are usually published the day after our board meeting. So it will be available to the entire school district.
That's why Mrs. Gedenkin is.
No, it went out, Ms. Clutter sent it out again today, so it is going out and people are doing it.
Class moms, class moms.
We're trying.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Thank you. We're adjourned.